I truly believe like app chains can be better products than smart contracts. That's kind of the foundational theory we start off with, and we observe this with Hyperliquid and DYDX. Like if you can commit to building it and you execute well, it is a fundamentally better product. The next question you then have is why do so little like smart contracts move to their own L2 or their own app chain? And that is because the hurdle to building this is actually very high. It's a big investment. You become decoupled from other ecosystems.
GM, welcome to BlockHunters Voices, Ep.3. My name is Joachim Voju and I'm your host for today. BlockHunters Voices is a platform where we explore the journeys, stories, and insights of the blockchain innovators and leaders, as well as the technologies driving their projects. We have here with us today Karel Kubat. Karel has been a pioneer in the Cosmos ecosystem and Polkadot ecosystem as well, the pioneers of the app chain concept, and now he is the co-founder of Union Labs. Welcome, Karel, and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, how are you doing lately, Karel?
Yeah, we've been busy with Union. So recently we have had the launch of our public testnet, and now every week we're adding more networks to it to be used. So actually yesterday we added Bear Chain, Stride, and DYDX. So now you see these assets go over testnet. So the team has been observing, monitoring, finding any potential bugs, fixing those ASAP, as well as we're working on kind of the next few networks, adding those and some new features.
Okay. But let's start a little from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So basically my concept is that if you are a millennial or a boomer, you have two lives. The one before crypto and the one after you started doing Web3. So tell me, Karel, what did you do before you started building in Web3?
So I've actually been in Web3 for quite a long time. I was doing my biochem undergraduate when I discovered Ethereum, and that was back in 2015. I've been kind of in my undergrad specializing in data science, statistics, Python, R, MATLAB, so I was familiar with programming, and was running a startup on the side for data analytics, mainly working with some professors at the university. Discovered Ethereum, and to be honest, immediately fell in love with Web3. Kind of spent my full time on it. Initially around ETH itself, but then more around alt L1s as well. Running validators, participating in the community, understanding the tech stack, and that got quite successful initially. So we had a pretty large AUM stake to us across alt L1 networks, and I was actively like developing a lot of these networks, working with these different teams. And that's really how I got my foundation in blockchain, my understanding.
So
But
basically you are a validator at heart.
at heart, I'm an infrastructure guy. In the end,
Infrastructure.
blockchains are peer-to-peer networks, right? Like that's what they
Exactly.
truly are. And that, for me at least, like it sounds weird, but it took the magic away. When you first discover blockchain, you hear about smart contracts, these abstract things. It might seem like this magical cloud that floats everywhere. But only when you like run nodes, run validators, and start diving into that code do you truly understand what is really going on under the hood. And it makes the like magic of L2s, L3s, aggregation networks, etc. go away too. Like you truly understand what are we building here and what is the computer doing.
Okay, but how did you end up creating Union? That happened in 2015, and there is a long gap between that and
Yeah,
Union.
exactly. So initially I was more on the kind of developing small projects, running this validator business. Around 2018, we had the bear market then. And to be honest, I grew bearish on crypto itself as well. Ethereum had missed its deadlines on going to proof of stake. We really didn't see apps at all, right? Like we had ICOs, but we only had the ERC20s being minted. So this promise that crypto like actually would do something hadn't been fulfilled at all. I took a brief break, did basically some traveling around the world, as well as some long distance hiking that I did in Europe, and came back to crypto refreshed. And by then we were entering DeFi summer. And kind of this promise of actually being able to do something on chain had been fulfilled. I started contributing to Cosmos and Polkadot at the time, still in love with alt L1s and that stack, and especially Polkadot then. Me being a Rust developer too, and that kind of being at the forefront. There, I kind of had my original philosophy already settled back in 2017. My idea was like we're going to get many blockchains or some type of blockchain, but basically every app its own state machine. And you saw that in Cosmos, you saw it in Polkadot, and that was my main philosophy and still is. And so that's where I kind of like started working on infrastructure that would support that future even more. So interop consensus, really digging into what's necessary to kind of get the next 10,000 tech startups, fintech startups to use blockchain.
Nice. That's a great vision, Karel. But can you tell me what is Union exactly, and what is its primary objective? Simply put, what is the main improvement it aims to achieve?
Yeah. So going back a bit on this experience that we have here, I truly believe like app chains can be better products than smart contracts. That's kind of the foundational theory we start off with, and we observe this with Hyperliquid and DYDX. Like if you can commit to building it and you execute well, it is a fundamentally better product. The next question you then have is why do so little like smart contracts move to their own L2 or their own app chain? And that is because the hurdle to building this is actually very high. It's a big investment. You become decoupled from other ecosystems, so you lose coherence and composability. And that, to be honest, as a founder, is a big risk to take, right? So when we have all of these new startups deciding on how they're going to build their product, the risk of doing an app chain is very high. The question we then ask with Union is like, why is the risk so high? Like, what's actually going wrong here? And how can we de-risk this? How do we enable more builders to choose this path? And for us still, like what we observe with current Cosmos app chains and with new builders doing out there, it's the interoperability portion. That's the highest risk right now.
Exactly.
Now, if you're Bearer Chain or Movement Labs or another new big project, like you get support from XLR and Layer Zero from day one, right? Like you have a lot of funding, you have tier one VCs behind you supporting you. So these bridging projects will choose to support you. But as you kind of look at these bridging projects now, they support maybe 80 to 90 networks. Like they don't support that much. There's no direct connection. Even Circle, like with its USDC bridge, doesn't support all chains out there. The reason for this is these intro projects, they need to add you. You go to them, you ask them, please support my chain. They look if they trust you, if they have enough capacity to do so. It's a very Web2 affair, and it's very manual what needs to occur. Really, what we want is kind of like the world that we have now with cloud computing, where I can create a server and within a second, like I'm connected to the wider internet. Not like in the 90s where you buy a server and you wait a week, they call you up and then you wait for an instant connection. You basically want to create a chain or an L2 and immediately be connected to everything out there. Ideally without even talking to the bridging team, right? And this is very much akin to how you operate on, let's say, Solana or Ethereum. Like I don't need to go to the Uniswap team to integrate a Uniswap pool. I can just deploy a contract and integrate it immediately. Now, we want that same experience for bridging for infrastructure. With Union, we want someone to be able to basically take a Cosmos SDK template or a Move L2 template, and within like 2 hours of starting the programming journey, be connected to Union Testnet and just receive funds, like have a live connection going out there. And this basically makes that whole product journey that right now is maybe 6 months and high risk to 2 hours and very de-risked. Also allows you to scale a lot more, right? Like if people can add themselves, then there's really no limiting factor with how many new projects can be onboarded in a day, a week, or a year. And so interoperability really becomes almost like SaaS, right? It's like integrating Stripe in your website. You just do it yourself in half an hour.
Exactly. So basically, that answers the question how Union differentiates itself than Layer Zero, XLR, or more, or Hyperlane, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're a bit similar to Hyperlane on this. Hyperlane has the same philosophy that it should be permissionless, but the standpoint that we take with Union as well is that we don't want teams to run their own multi-sig relayers or, I guess, little infrastructure as possible. And like, don't roll your own bridge in that sense. So Union isn't just like an on-chain standard or API. We also have the security guarantees associated with it. Like, to incorporate with Union, you need to do light client verification and consensus verification. And the reason for that is we designed Union to fundamentally operate in a space where we don't know who's connecting to Union. It could be a valid project and a valid team, could be a hacker that wants to open a connection.
Exactly.
And Union needs to be able to handle both. All right, like that's the kind of guarantees that we provide. So that's why we had to rethink how we do that security stack, right? And make sure that we don't rely on oracles or multi-sigs. We cannot ask, for example, of a team that wants to connect to Union, like, all right, if you want to connect, then you need to run an oracle about your chain and facilitate these transfers. Right? Like, it has to happen on chain and with cryptography.
You are a guy that hopped into a lot of ecosystems since 2015, as you've told me. But why did you choose to build on IBC?
Yeah, so the IBC protocol itself is like how the handshakes work, the packets work, etc. We thought was like a very well designed protocol. Obviously, being developers, you always want to develop your own protocol, right? That's a nerd type. But in the end, if you want to kind of catch all of the different security issues that you have with interoperability and make sure that you're protected against all forms of attacks, you're going to effectively re-implement IBC. You're going to name it differently, but the protocol will look the same. And so that's why we decided, you know what, instead of inventing a new standard and convincing everyone to switch, it's better to just be compatible with this new kind of open source standard that is credibly neutral, that allows most chains to just immediately work on this. A lot of projects already know what the API is going to be, and their existing integrations will just work out of the box. But that doesn't mean that we don't have like future features planned. Union already is a bit ahead of core IBC itself. So if you look at, for example, different proposals, there's the conditional light clients proposal. Union already implements that and supports that for Arbitrum Scroll and other L2s. There's batch transfers. Union already supports that. And finally, something new that we're working on is an alternative to packet forward middleware, what we call sibling light clients, that allows you to kind of hop immediately to the final chain without processing packets on intermediate chains. So we are pushing for kind of newer features on IBC to keep the protocol modern and lean.
That sounds great, man. But also, zero knowledge cryptography is central to Union's innovation. Could you explain its significance in simple terms? I mean, there's a lot of talk of ZK in crypto, but I'm sure a lot of people don't understand what ZK really is.
Yeah. So with ZK, and the way we use it is to do what we call scale our compute. When you want to do trustless bridging, like Union does, you need to normally have quite big smart contracts that do a lot of computation on a chain. That can be non-ideal because chains have limited compute, so the gas price would be high. And for app chains specifically, you ideally want to reserve as much compute space for your users, right? Like, the more we spend on IBC and interoperability, the less we have for trading or NFTs or other applications. Now with ZK Tech, what you can do is take, let's say, a computation that takes 1 second, execute it off-chain, and then return the result on-chain and verify it in 100 milliseconds. The downside is off-chain is going to cost you 10 seconds. So it becomes a lot more expensive, but you only need to run it on one computer. And to verify it on-chain, it becomes a lot cheaper. We use it basically for the light client updates. So normally with the light client updates, you need to verify a ton of signatures for the validators, you need to do storage proofs, you need to do a bunch of bookkeeping, and it's all quite computationally expensive. So we actually perform all of that in a circuit, off-chain. Now the circuit does need to perform computation for quite a long time. Like on-chain, I don't know, this maybe takes like 50 milliseconds. Off-chain, this actually takes 7 seconds. The upside is on-chain, it becomes very cheap. It's about as expensive as, I think, 2 XLR bridge transfers to do that verification. And that verification can secure an almost unlimited amount of transfers, like thousands of it. So you get really good compute scale when you apply ZK tech. We don't use it like ZK rollups or for privacy. We really only use it to make the protocol cheaper. So for the end user, ideally what they observe is just lower gas prices. Like whenever Union has a breakthrough in its ZK stack and we make it 10% more efficient, that effectively just means that gas prices go down a bit.
Oh, so do you mean there's actually no privacy? The only thing that matters here is the speed and the low gas cost.
Yeah. Technically, I think you could, on top of this tech, implement privacy. Like it's something we've been looking into to also potentially make bridge transfers optionally private. The problem is that has a lot of regulatory implications
Exactly.
if you follow that. So we
Yeah.
decided like to not put that in the core protocol. If there's builders out there that want to talk with us to see if they can implement this on top of Union, I'd be very much down to research this and talk about it, because I think actually private bridging should be something that we have. Right now, we just had Penumbra launch, for example, but people can still see if you go in and out of Penumbra, right? If your IBC assets in or out. So in an ideal world, you wouldn't be able to know that either, because that would really allow us to keep kind of complete privacy across the stack.
Yeah, but how would you know that you're not gonna have the same fate as Tornado Cash Dev, right?
You don't.
Uh, you don't, exactly. So it's a bit of a gray, kind of black area. So the risk is not worth it.
Yeah, and if I'm going to be honest, we didn't found Union for people to be able to launder their money or avoid taxes, right? I'm in crypto specifically because I believe it makes financial products better, more fair, gives higher yield to people, but not because people can now like avoid taxes and not contribute to their country anymore.
Exactly, exactly. Let's go back to the public testnet. I saw a tweet when we said 400k messages, 100k users, 380k transfers in only 3 weeks. Congrats to this, Karel, but could you give us more details and discuss any challenges you faced during this time?
Yeah, we're actually a bit higher now. So we are almost at 550,000 transfers and 750,000 packets. What's interesting is what we've recently seen. Initially, the packets and transfers were almost the same number. And that's because some packets are transfers, or actually, all transfers are packets. But then there's also general message passing, cross-chain swaps, etc. For about 2 weeks now, we've seen the packet count start increasing faster, which means that now there's actually developer usage on Testnet, where people are not just doing asset transfers, but actually like programmatic packets from their smart contracts. So Abstract SDK has been doing cross-chain swaps over Uniswap on Sepolia from Cosmos chains, and Nomos is working as well on ICA and other types of connections over Union. So that was really cool to see, because obviously, like, we have our own product with the UI, but the fact that we got developers excited about building on us, we were very happy with that. On
Yeah, but
lessons, sorry, go
please,
ahead.
please. Let's take this for example. I am a Web3 user. I'm not a developer, but I'm interested in crypto. I'm in the beginning of my journey. I want to know how it works. I want to understand it. How can I begin my journey to explore Union? What steps can I take?
Yeah, so we are improving our docs a little bit, but I would definitely check out our docs overall. I think they are pretty decent so far as an intro. What we actually took care of, I don't know if you played around with the app, when a transfer occurs, we actually show the individual steps of what's happening on chain. So we show the transaction hash of the light client update, the send packet, receive packet. So we really try to show users like this is fundamentally what's going on, how this protocol works. So they know what stage their transfer is in, but also to kind of educate them on why this is not a centralized bridge or like some type of opaque service that runs on chain, but really something that occurs inside the smart contracts that you can track yourself. So that, like, as a new person to Web3, that's what I would start diving into. For people joining Web3, I'd say figure out why you're here, right? Are you here just to follow hype of meme coins? Then perhaps Union isn't your immediate product, because Union is quite a research heavy product, a fundamental new type of architecture. But if you're here for decentralization, for next gen permissionless infrastructure and you want to learn about that, then definitely like track the project.
Do you believe this decentralization could be 100% functional, or is it just a dream, an utopia?
Um, so the way I see decentralization is not that in the end everyone is equal in the system, but that everyone has an equal opportunity in the system, right? And I think a lot of people confuse that in crypto. They feel like perhaps very good traders make more money, or people are extracting MEV and they're getting work because of that. But the thing is, anyone can start extracting MEV. Anyone has access to the chain and can submit transactions, right?
Nobody
Anyone
wants to do the work, that's the thing.
Yeah. So for me, I went into crypto because I want everyone to have the ability. But I also believe if you're really good at something, you should succeed, right? In the end, the best party should win if their tech is better, if their execution is better. What I hate about the Web2 world, and especially banking, that's a world where it's if you have the right license, you win. If you've been around for 100 years, you win, right? But not necessarily the best party. So I just don't like walled gardens, right? Where we exclude builders. Um, Decentralization, like can it win, is an utopia? I think so, but only if you approach it correctly. Decentralization is extremely resilient, and we've seen that with crypto, where basically like networks heal themselves, attract new builders, stay online even when regulators wants to take them down, which you don't see in the Web2 world. I think actually when we remove decentralization, it becomes very fragile. We've seen that with some Cosmos chains where perhaps they are not generating enough revenue to fund their validators, where the IBC relaying is not actually being tipped, and so it's kind of subsidized and free. And that's where these systems start to become brittle. And obviously people still run these systems because they love the project and they want to support it. But if there's no like proper incentive to do so, you really like get a brittle system. So the way we wanted to design this with Union to both keep it decentralized and very resilient is basically make sure that everyone can be a relayer and approver, and make sure that the fees go to the relayers and approvers, which means that technically like anyone can kind of walk by Union, see how much money you make by running the infrastructure, being a participant there, but also compete with each other. Right? We don't pick one canonical relayer per connection. We don't say this is currently the party fulfilling the service and give them a contract. It's open to everyone, and we want them to compete with each other because that keeps the system very fast, very efficient.
It's very interesting that what you've told about the traditional industry, because in a traditional way, let's say for example you're a very good dev but you don't have college, it's very hard to get a job. But in crypto, if you have the necessary skills, you can be anywhere in the world and do something, do a reputation without having any college, without even having high school or anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of our best developers who's actually had a bid done by him by the IBC team. They did a blog on him because he did some upgrades to the protocol. He didn't do a computer science degree. He originally was in music and then fell in love with programming and was fully self-taught, and then entered the Web3 space. And I fully like support that, especially in tech. But I think in a lot of areas in the world, actually just being really good at what you do is the most important thing. But you can come from any angle, you can learn anything as long as you dedicate yourself to it.
Exactly, that's the spirit. I personally come from the media and film industry, so no, rather than the hard work, the 24/7 job, there's nothing, it's very different than
Mm-hmm.
crypto. But that's the beauty of it, because when you come from other industries, you can compare the experiences. You can see how things are done differently. It's very, very interesting in that way.
Yeah, I think it's part of the sovereign nature that people in crypto have, right? I think almost everyone that goes into crypto, sure, they work for companies and they work with other people, but they want to be properly rewarded for it. They want to climb up quickly and they want to usually have a lot of equity and be very involved. While maybe in the Web2 world, usually people want more holidays or a slightly higher salary or a Christmas bonus. but they're not that keen to actually have a stake in the company itself.
Exactly, it's a different mindset. Everything is different, and I think that the world is changing, uh, because 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we wouldn't be doing this. Everybody should have worked at a bureau, at the office.
Hmm.
Now we can work everywhere in the world, just hop on a call, do the work on Telegram, on Discord, on exchanging information and anything.
It's that, and I think also what people have realized and what employers have mainly shown over the last couple of years is that a lot of companies, especially like Web2 companies, are not loyal to their employees. You see it in the US, right, where they constantly have to strike to get the minimum wage slightly higher, where when they want to create a union, they are all mass fired from their companies. And so people started to realize like you have to kind of fight for yourself in this world and work on your own skill set, your own value add, because it's no longer like my grandfather's time where you worked for 40 years for the same company. They would give you a big retirement and a nice watch as a gift, and they were actually like loyal to you. Now, these days, like big companies, they
You
will,
have to fight.
yeah, you have to fight. And so I think crypto attracts people that indeed like have realized this very early on and know that they have to basically make sure that they add value to themselves and build something that they have a stake in.
Nice, nice. Interesting times we are living. We have to be very grateful for that.
Yeah, that's and feel the fact that the tech is now at a stage that it enables us to do these things, right? Like
Exactly.
that we actually can build these communities, these interactions where we can choose to basically be sovereign from the TradFi world and operate purely over these decentralized networks.
Yeah, let's get back to Union. You recently added support to Arbitrum, so this is a great step forward for optimistic rollups. Can you talk a bit about the partnerships you established so far? I know one of the biggest ones are with Berachin, as you've told
Hmm.
earlier, Movement, Lava, Polygon's Ag Layer, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, so these partnerships for us, just to give you some insights on what this looks like behind the scene, they usually start off with the research component. So we'll be doing some co-research with these different teams on how to securely integrate them, what their product needs to look like, what we need to do. And usually once we are satisfied with the result, when we know it's actually feasible to do this, that's when we do this initial announcement that we're collaborating on doing this and really building this out. So far, a couple months later, we'll have like the POC complete, and we know that the system fundamentally works. So, and then the last stage comes, which is the stage that kind of takes quite a lot of effort, although you wouldn't expect it, which is do the indexing, integrate it in the app, make sure it works properly when you have 100,000 users using it. We just finished that with Stride and with Parachain, so that's live now. With Arbitrum, we had the connection actually in the kind of POC prototype stage for a couple of months. And hopefully next week, Monday, we'll be launching that. So we're finally kind of happy as well with how our data feeds work, if we can like do this in a reliable way. And that kind of like showcases all of our different like EVM type integrations. So with Parachain, we really had to like leverage their beacon kit architecture. With Arbitrum, we really leveraged their soft finality rules, as well as the scalability of their own L2 to verify CKPs. With Scroll actually settles quite quickly, so we do that slightly differently. And then the next few projects or network launches are going to be non-EVM. So Movement Labs will probably come after that. I really like the architecture so far, and the Move stack is done now. So we're in that stage now. We're getting the off-chain infra reliable, and then finally we're kind of pointing our eyes to Solana to support that as well. And then with the proper
Nice.
Solana Lite client. So right now there's the Picasso connection. Downside of the Picasso connection is it's not that reliable at the moment. It goes offline quite often. Plus, it relies on a multi-sig to secure it in the hoods. So that has like not as nice properties as IBC. So because normally with IBC and trustless bridging, you want to rely on the full security of the opposing network, not just a subset. For Solana, it's a bit trickier to do lifeline-based bridging. The chain is not kind of the same structure as most other chains are, but we think we have a design that could work.
Can you share anything else that's in the roadmap for the next 3 to 6 months? When can we expect mainnet or anything that you think you can share with us?
Yeah, so I don't want to share dates because I don't want to set expectations.
You don't have to. In crypto, you don't have to do that.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But we are very keen to launch mainnet soon. Like we feel the product is getting in a really good state. As an indicator for mainnet, we need to do a ceremony like Penumbra did to generate the verification keys for our circuits. Hopefully, that'll occur within the next 2 months, hopefully a bit earlier. And that way, community can participate in generating the verification keys for circuits. You'll receive an NFT and we'll note down all of these early stage contributors. And once that is complete, we can actually start launching the mainnet. So that's the big hint, the big alpha. When we announce the ceremony, then we're in the final stages of going into mainnet.
This is a bit of a philosophical question, but how do you envision the internet in the next 5 to 10 years, and what role will union play in this evolution?
So, what I would really like to see overall in the modular stack in blockchain and in general in financial applications is that bridging and connectivity becomes completely free to the end user. What we observe now in all of these stacks is, and even in Web2 with Robinhood and such, is that the order flow of users is quite valuable. Like they're performing trades on chain, but maybe they're doing transfers across other chains, and other market participants right now are extracting value from all of this order flow. They're observing it and they're trading against you. The problem is bridge protocols still charge end users to use them, and DEX still charge fees. What I really would like to see is a future where bridging becomes free for the end user, and a lot of other financial products become completely free because they're paid for by this extractable value. I think that's probably the best case for end users because we'll always have MEV, we'll always have market participants that are on the prowl for extracting value. But I feel the highest friction right now for end users is all of these tiny fees they need to pay on chain, right? All of these different tokens they need to have, all of this stuff. So if we can figure out a final system where they don't need to pay all of this stuff anymore, it always becomes free, but they just get a slightly worse price when they trade, or their transfer might just be front run, but they just like lose a little bit of value on that, not too much. And I think we have a really strong UX for people out there. And at the same time, we have a really good ecosystem for liquidity providers, for market makers to basically service all this infrastructure. Really good revenue sources for validators. So I think that's kind of where we're going to move with crypto overall. But I think we're going to move a lot of Web 2 on those rails as well, where we're not going to charge fees for example, your retirement anymore. Right now, when you're participating in a retirement fund through your company, you're going to be paying a small fee every single year, but over your entire lifetime, that fee in total is basically up to like 100,000 US dollars, which you actually lose out of it. So just remodeling the world and thinking of can we get all of these tiny fees away and make everything just free and accessible and fund that through the underlying infrastructure. That's the big move for fintech.
So basically, interoperability, but for everything, not just in crypto.
Exactly, as well as everything on chain, right? There is really no reason why, for example, it's a good one, the US Department of Defense that accidentally loses billions, if not trillions, in their accounting. There's no reason why internally that shouldn't be a blockchain and just fully verifiable. You could even make it a private blockchain or one with privacy and ZK so that they have the security to only like make public certain portions of it. And the same goes for banks, for financial institutions. All of those could be blockchains as well. And that way we would never have fraud or accounting issues.
Great, great. I really hope to see that very soon, Karel. I'm really looking forward. I'm gonna switch to some personal questions. So, as you said earlier, hiking is one of your hobbies. Can you tell us more about your passion for hiking and how it helps you in your professional life?
Yeah, so I'm an avid outdoorsman. I do rock climbing, bouldering, I'll do going to the mountains to do some alpine climbing, and then do long distance hiking. So with my backpack and my tent, going out for weeks through different areas. I'll say right now, like as a founder of Union, I don't have time to do that anymore. So I'm looking forward to a point in the future where I can again. But I think it's extremely important to touch grass in that way. Crypto obviously has a lot of noise, right? A lot of like new narratives on Twitter, a lot of drama, and it's important to pierce through that and see what's long term actually important for what you're doing. It also increases productivity tremendously. I'm not sure for the nerds out there that know, but the founder of Wolfram Alpha, the computing and AI company, he actually always takes his laptop outside when he's coding or doing calls, and has the setup where he actually ties the laptop to his chest and he can walk through the forest. And this is one of the most prominent computer scientists and programmers in the world right now. And he still does it every day for 4 hours. He goes in the forest with his laptop and does his coding there.
Yeah, so basically he combines leisure with business.
Yeah, and I think it's important to basically, as humans, go back to our roots a bit, right? Like we are
Exactly.
not intended to sit in a chair all day. We're not supposed to actually have a roof over our head all day. We're actually supposed to be outside in fresh air, moving around.
Exactly. I always try to do a minimum 10K steps per day. I think it's the minimum you have to do. Also go to the gym, have a healthy diet, balanced, not very healthy, but balanced at least. But I started seeing this kind of stuff late. I mean, in my 20s, I didn't care about this stuff.
Hmm.
When I got to 29 or something like that, I really started caring about this stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like, luckily, the knowledge of this is becoming more apparent now. But indeed, in crypto, you have a lot of young people. I was, when they're going to crypto, it's like early 20s basically. You feel completely invincible. You can work forever, travel forever. But at some point, you realize, you age, and all of this work does start to tackle on. And I feel like a lot of people in crypto actually fall into the trap that when they feel like they're becoming less productive, they start working more and more and more. And then you see these like crypto startups that have raised 30 million, where every single employee has a burnout, right? And they're all like no longer shipping, no longer productive. And that just doesn't work. You shouldn't be thinking about, am I grinding away behind a clicker board and doing like 10 hours of meetings a day? No, it's much better to be productive for 8 hours and then actually properly rest your brain. I think we talked
Exactly.
about this in Dubai, and I'm not sure who said this originally. I think it was Hemingway. He said, if you want to be a writer, as your job, do something with your body. Like become a mason, work in construction, because that means that during the day you're not using your brain, you're resting it. So when you're at home, you can then properly do your writing. If you want to become a writer, don't become an editor as well, because now you're basically depleting your creativity. And I think in crypto you sometimes have to do the same. Just focus on something else, and that way you get all of your creativity back. Because it's better to have just one really good idea than to slave away for weeks on a bad one.
For me personally, one of the best ideas that I had was when I was running. So, you go for a run and you have a great idea, but if you put yourself at the laptop, I need a good idea, It's not gonna come, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it's cool to see that now around crypto conferences there are running clubs with people basically focusing more on that. I think that's a very important one for everyone looking to get into the space, especially crypto. It can be so addictive. I think we've all been in the space where you've got your tokens, you're refreshing your portfolio app every
Exactly.
minute basically, and then trying to do work on besides that. And that in the end just doesn't give you the results that you want.
Of course. Can you tell me, Karel, what were some of the key influences or mentors in your early career that shaped your approach to blockchain?
Oh, that's I would say a difficult one. I haven't had that many mentors specifically within blockchain. Like on the tech side, of course, there's like many people I follow on Twitter and I think are absolutely brilliant for what they say. But I think it's actually more outside of crypto that
Outside of crypto is cool. Can be IRL, can be
exactly,
anyone.
yeah. So at some point, I worked with an advisor in the Netherlands, Rick, and that's where basically my approach with how to actually be both honest and work towards your goals came. In crypto, you see a lot of people that lie all the time, or maybe like create a half truth. But Rick, originally when I was younger, explained to me that's actually all about building trust and being genuine. I think that's a better word. I'm not really speaking about liars. I'm more describing people who are genuine or not genuine, and who allow themselves to be vulnerable or have weird hobbies, and that actually is a strength that you should nurture and focus on. And I think I see that with a lot of founders where they perhaps pull up walls or they create a certain persona, and that usually removes a lot of the genuine connections that you can have when meeting people.
Of course, because the perfect human being is not the person we like. Nobody likes a perfect person, right? You like a person that shares their vulnerabilities, right? To
Hmm.
be honest, to be open, to say, I'm scared. I don't want to do that, but I have to do it. You
Yeah.
know, I'm burned out or anything.
And I think it's always relevant. I personally don't like Trump, for example. I think he's going to be a horrible president again. But the one thing he has going for him, I think he's more genuine than the candidates that the Democrats put forward, right? More genuine than Biden, more genuine than Kamala. And people prefer that. They prefer a
Exactly.
genuine person that they
They see
dislike.
this. They see themselves on Trump. He's like me. They are saying.
Or at least he says what he
Yeah.
thinks. Like people just don't like it
Yeah.
when they don't know what someone truly wants, when they think they're hiding something.
Exactly. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs looking to enter the blockchain space?
Yeah, so um, I would say this: like blockchain and crypto itself, it's a very open industry. What people love to see is new builders that come with ideas, that approach others, build out a network, and showcase your prototype, showcase what you're doing. Sometimes you see founders who are very secretive, who think they have an amazing idea and don't want to share that with everyone. I would say don't be worried about that. Like ideas are dime in the dozen. Everyone has great ideas. It's about execution,
The
dedication, time
execution
to
is
it.
exactly.
Yeah, so it's much better to just tell everyone what you're doing. You can have secret sauce, right? Like with Union as well. Like we don't like haven't shared all of our code yet, but we are telling people what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I think that is very important as any founder to start doing as soon as you can. And then the other thing is find other founders and angels that love what you do and want to support you. Um, for example, Union did a fundraise that was all through warm introductions. People that we talked with in the beginning that liked what we do, that liked us, that we spent a lot of time with, and they introduced us to investors. I think if you're a founder and you come in without those connections, it becomes incredibly hard. You can't just cold call people or go to the info at A16Z. They won't reply to those emails. It's all about connections here.
Yeah, but I think that it's actually easier to make connections in crypto rather than a traditional industry. People are more open. You just have to go to a couple of conferences and you make a lot of friends.
Easily. Yeah, yeah. It might seem when I say like connections are important that crypto is very elitist, but that's not the case at all. Crypto, especially like I think with most technical founders, you can just DM them your ideas. You can ask if they have time for
Exactly.
you. You can walk up at a conference and be invited to the team dinner. All of that stuff is just possible, but people need to go out there and do this.
Exactly. Karel, you've been great, man. Thank you very much for this opportunity and sharing your insights and journey with us. We both know that modularity is here to stay, and it's amazing to see you guys build these solutions in real time. Um, we look forward to seeing Union Labs continue to innovate and lead in the interoperability space.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man.